to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the Stream. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. Isn't this station amazing? I sit here as I'm prepping for the show and just listen to the music. It's absolutely amazing. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. And I know the world is still a bit crazy, isn't it? Every time we think we're getting our head above water, we seem to be in a repeat. So today's show is just going to be a little bit interesting. I have a guest coming on, perhaps, we'll see. Let me tell you that right now, you know I'm also an astrologer. 4 major planets, 4 are retrograde, and next week a 5th goes retrograde. So by the middle of next week, if you're an astrologer, if you want to even look this up, we will have Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus all retrograde in the sky. If you're wondering why perhaps life has been just a little odd lately, that's why. It's just this sort of overwhelming sense of things not quite working right. Retrogrades are interesting, and I want to talk about it just briefly, but before I do that, let me finish welcoming you to the show. My name is Dr. Elisa. The tag for my show, as you know, is Inspiring a Renaissance of Spirit. We're all on a soul journey of some kind, you know that. You know, music soul sometimes, spiritual soul journey. What is our soul craving in terms of our career? I actually joke, and it's people who know me well know this about me. I kind of live in an existential tide pool. What does that mean? It means that on a regular basis, something about me feels like I need to re-examine my life. What am I doing? What is going on in my life? And I'm going to have a guest on in a few minutes, and we'll get her take on it. But I want to talk about mine for just a minute. First off, I want to brag on myself for a minute. My book is still available, The Way of the Well, on Amazon. And by the way, if you go to Amazon, you'll also see that I've written a book called Pirate Wisdom, which is a leadership book. So take the time and, you know, just take a look at them. I think that there's a lot in here that's incredibly inspiring. I reread it myself. I also want to do a shout out for Charlie, one of our great hosts. He is hosting something called the Warrior's Heart Retreat. And the guy is amazing. If you listen to the council, you know that. This is a retreat for anyone who feels like they have that wound in their soul and they don't know how to heal it. It is in September. The retreat includes the meals, the snacks, the lodging. I think you even get a t-shirt, and it's filling up. So if you want to do this, you need to sign up soon. And how can you get there? You can just go to Charlie's website. You can call Charlie or email him. The phone number is 310-722-6562. And it's an amazing opportunity. So what is an existential crisis? You know, I don't actually have crises. I live in this tide pool of wondering, what is life about? Where am I in my life right now? I got to tell you, everything's fine. I feel so incredibly blessed. And yet, I still go through this on a regular basis. Not am I doing enough, but am I going where my soul wants me to go? Maybe it's because this is the month in the Jewish calendar of Elul. And Elul is the month leading up to the Jewish New Year's. It's this full month. And our New Year's is a little bit different than the regular New Year's. It is a New Year's of reflection and less celebration and more internal sort of striving. And in fact, one of the things that we do in this month of Elul is let people know that if we have injured them in any way, we apologize. I am playing with my guest here for a moment. So what I want to say to you is if anything on this show has upset you, please reach out to me. Because what I'd like you to know that it was never intended to hurt, but sometimes it's intended to inspire. So if I've done anything, let me know. That is part of the month of Elul. All my girlfriends know this. They get letters from me that say, gee, if I haven't been a good friend, I'm sorry. So it's part of the month. So perhaps that's what happens. And I think the guest I have on today, who will be coming on here in just a sec, is going to also help with that conversation that we're having around existential life changes and finding oneself. I think she's joining us right now. Keisha, you're on. Hello. Your light, can you turn your computer just a bit? The light behind you is shining. It's okay if you can't.
It's good?
Oh, that's okay. That's good. That's good. Hold on. Thank you for joining us. I've introduced the show and been talking a little bit about life as sort of an existential crisis process. And I know that your life has been like that. So before we start, and the thing, Keisha, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a minute, but I want to start with this because there was a line that I read as soon as I opened your book. Have you located your passion as if this was your last night on earth? I read that and thought, I'm going to sit up all night now reading this book. Keisha, welcome to my show. How are you tonight or today?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being on your show. I'm happy to be here.
This is so fun. So what I'd like you to do, because I think I told you this, I can't stand it when I'm standing in the wings and somebody reads my resume. What I'd love for you to do is you definitely inspired me, and you inspire others on this sort of journey of a renaissance. And what I'm wondering is if you could just introduce yourself to us in terms of that journey that you are still on, but you just were launched into. Can you do that for me?
Absolutely. So hi everyone, I'm Keisha Blair. I'm the author of Holistic Wealth, as Elisa just mentioned, and my journey is one of real, unexpected surprises. So I'll just give you a bit of a rundown, a bit of a history of my story. So I was widowed at 31, just 8 weeks after I gave birth to my second child. My husband died at 34 from a very rare disease that most doctors have never seen in their lifetime, only in textbooks. That's how rare it is. So only 1 in 1 million people get this disease. I had never heard of it. It took them a year to find out the cause, and it was through this extensive team of both Canadian and U.S. Investigative coroners that came together, that they pulled this team together to find out exactly what this was, and it took a year. So you can imagine when I found out what it was, I was just astounded. Like, I honestly needed to take a step back to find meaning, to find the answers in life that I had. I had just had my second child, as I stated before, and, the whole concept of meaning in life, and as Elisa said, this existential questioning really, really came to me. Because then when you go through a setback like that, you think, okay, wait a minute. What is my purpose here? Why am I here? Clearly, there's a bigger, meaning to this, because this doesn't happen every day to everyone. So clearly, I'm either supposed to learn some lessons to impart to everyone from this experience, or I'm supposed to just do that. And it was just very clear to me that I was here to do this. And so, as I stated in the book, I took a pause, a long pause. I took a sabbatical. And, I left the environment that I was in. I took a year away and really, really connected inward. Really, really tried to figure out what was the meaning of life, where would I go from here on, and how would I make those changes? Because I know I didn't want to live an inauthentic life. I wanted to live purposefully. I wanted to live a mission-led life. And I really wanted to help others, you know, going through these intense setbacks. But I knew that was my mission coming out of that. So when I came back from sabbatical, I wrote this viral article with the 40 life lessons I learned from my husband's death. And I did not know at the time it would be viral. I didn't know people would connect with it the way they did, but 50 million people around the world did connect with it. And I thought, wow, this is the most vulnerable thing I've ever written. I was so scared. When I pressed the publish button, I was so scared. And then within days, the editors of Medium contacted me and they said, we want to do an audio version. And then it just went viral. And the response was so amazing. And the editor said, you have to write this book. You have to write this book. At the time, I was thinking of writing a memoir. She said, put down that manuscript, write this one. So this is, the journey so far, and I'm so grateful to be able to share it with you all and to be able to sit here and to be on this program, with you, Elisa, and your audience is truly a gift. I'm so honored to be here to share it because I know, and this is when you walk in your purpose and you know your purpose, each opportunity to share it like this was like a gift. So I'm happy to share it and so others can learn from this experience.
So thank you. That's an amazing introduction. And there were so many questions just from what you just talked about that I would love to ask, but I'm gonna try to follow some of the things in the book, but also I want to just dig in, if you don't mind. In the book, and we'll go through the book, but you have something in there about shining, helping people shine in their moment. And you just said something about we know we're walking our purpose when there's gratitude. Is that what you said? When we feel that? I've never heard anyone articulate it like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about that? That so many people say we know we're walking our purpose when we're in the flow or when it seems, but when we feel gratitude, that's an amazing concept. Can you just expand on that a bit?
Absolutely. It's so amazing that you asked me that, Elisa, because you know what I've been doing recently? I've been whispering a prayer for this message that I have. And I whisper a gratitude prayer and I say, thank you so much for this message that I've been blessed with. Thank you so much for my journey. Thank you so much for putting me on this path to help empower others. And it's because I know with such certainty that this is my calling. And I'm so grateful that I know, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to impart this. Whenever I have like a show like this, or like speaking to an audience, I feel so inspired, so empowered and re-energized. And when you're walking in your purpose, it re-energizes you. Like it doesn't deplete you. Like in the book, I talk about the holistic wealth method of everything being a decision, being a depletion or an addition. Mm-hmm. Well, this absolutely energizes me because I know it is. And the gratitude for it is just immense because it's something that transcends, right? It transcends a job title or it transcends a certain amount of money coming in. It transcends all of that. It feels deeply spiritual and I'm just intensely grateful.
That's I'm actually in awe of the way you've connected that. We often hear people say, if you would practice gratitude, life will unfold, and you're sort of completing that circle. No, everything that unfolds, be grateful for. Say thank you for whatever that is, and that is a way of living purposefully with meaning. The reason I find that so inspiring is for many people, they try to find the what. If I do this, I'll be living a life of meaning, and you're saying embrace the way you are living a life of meaning. Be grateful and let it expand. Do I have that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow. And so it's not just this throwing a dart at the board and saying that's the what, and when I get there, that's it. It's a circle and it's a cycle, and just the gratitude just really helps you to move that journey and thankful for that message. So I kid you not, Elisa, like I get up and I'm like, thank you for this journey. Thank you for this message that you've blessed me with. I'm so grateful to be able to be imparting this message of holistic wealth to the world. And it means the world to me. It means everything. So it's coming deep, deep from the heart. And, you know, even with what I've been through, there's this joy and happiness here now that is just very deep and authentic.
So you're inspiring me, because I do get up and in the morning I record my dreams and do some gratitude. And what I've started to realize is this show is a way for me to give others voice. That I have voice because I have the show, and then as a gift to you, I can make sure that in another way your voice is heard. Of course, you're a best-selling author and you have a podcast, so you know you have voice, but it's another way that I can help expand your message. So this is just amazing. Let me shift a bit, because I'm actually, you know, I've got the book. I went through it again last night, all the things that I marked up, and that definitely your message to women is that you want them to achieve their dreams by shining in their moment, which I think is absolutely beautiful. One of the other things that you said, and I think this is I'm going to tag this to gratitude because I think it's where we get hung up a lot, is everything in life is temporary. And I want to tell you that in my novel, I have one character say to another, everything we love eventually goes away. Everything is temporary. You learned that lesson. It slapped you in the face at 34. Can you, let's just talk about that for a minute, about how you stay in gratitude and know everything in life is the good and the bad. Everything in life is temporary. Just chat about that for a moment, can you?
Absolutely, and it's amazing that you're asking me that question, because I was thinking about that this morning. When I got up. I was thinking about that part in the book, Elisa. You know why? I remember the night that he died. I walked out of the hospital with a white plastic bag in my hand with things that I thought were going to be much more permanent. His wedding ring, some items of jewelry that were very meaningful to us, some other articles that I've now kept in a tin, and I think I mentioned that in the book for the kids. And that image of me walking out into the cold night after his death, it was an April night, and with that white plastic bag, really brought home to me that temporary, you know, concept that you're talking about now, and it came home to me. And it's one of the first things I mentioned in the viral article, that, you know, all these things, physical things that we see around us, and even some people, as you mentioned, or loved ones, it's all temporary. And it's amazing how much, you know, effort sometimes we put into things that, you know, are not necessarily the things we should be putting effort into. But that was what came home to me. And as you mentioned, the gratitude is a big driving force behind that reminder for us that, okay, this is temporary, so I need to do everything I can to spend time with my loved ones, to live a meaningful life, to really, you know, harness my passion and live meaningfully, because this can all disappear. It can all evaporate in a minute. Because here I was in the hospital, and it took them 3 hours to pronounce him dead from the minute we walked in to the time they pronounced him. And I had no idea that was going to be the end stage that night. I thought for sure we were coming out. I thought for sure maybe it was, you know, something very simple, some pain he was having. It turned out he died. And we didn't even go in with a hospital bag for admission. That's why I had the things in the white plastic bag. I didn't even have things to put his final things in. It's unbelievable when you go through that. And it really brings home that idea of what's temporary and what's permanent. The love we share, our legacy, transcends time. You know, that love is everything. It's everything, but most things, as you said, so important to remember that, how temporary things can be and that things can disappear in a moment.
And that love is what survives, right? And love is in the moment, what we have. I actually have a dear friend who took a workshop. The workshop was called something like, "What if this was the last year of your life?" or something like that, with her then boyfriend. And they walked out and said, "We should get married, because what if this is the last year of our life?" I know that for me, making sure that as listeners know, I'm Jewish, and so I do Shabbat. Every Shabbat, I have this growing list of people I text just the words Shabbat Shalom, I love you, to keep in touch, because it's so hard to do that. I have to tell you, I so appreciate your vulnerability at this moment. I've had a similar situation of so many of our listeners have, right? Somebody dying in the hospital. We walk out with this little bag of things, and I think it brings most of us so close to tears to go back to that emotion, and to hope that we shared our love enough that they knew that we loved them, right? How has that changed how you're dealing with relationships now? I know you met someone, several years later, and have had another child. How has that experience impacted, influenced where you are now in relationships?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's changed a lot for me personally in terms of, you know, even in our day-to-day, what we emphasize, the things we emphasize doing. And right now, we prioritize spending lots of time together as a family now, and even within our own relationship, like outside of the kids, you know, spending more quality time together. I mean, once you've been through an experience like that, you know, back then, I was on a career track to become an executive. I was chosen by, you know, the highest leadership, you know, cadre in the organization, and I was on a track. You know, as many of us are at that age, and all I thought about was career, and then that happened, and I realized too that, you know, that was very temporary. So right now in this relationship, everything has changed, you know, 180 degrees as I prioritize, you know, these things that we're talking about, and just the gratitude for those simple things. You know, with my family, with the kids, we made a gratitude jar when COVID hit, and the kids wrote on, you know, pieces of paper, and we put that gratitude jar together, and these are the things that we've been doing, and it's simple things. Mm-hmm. You see the simple things that they gave, you know, that they wrote on those pieces, those notes to in the jar. It was just like unbelievable, the things that you would think about pre-COVID, but now after COVID, it's just become so clear. So I think that's how it's changed in terms of my relationship and in terms of, you know, my family dynamic, but it definitely has a big impact.
That's so wonderful to hear. So if you're just joining me, this is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you so much for listening, and you are halfway through. You'll have to catch the first half of the show. I'm speaking with, holding this up well, Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth. She also has a podcast. You can just Google her, KeishaBlair.com. You will find her. She has videos that are short and lovely. She has a podcast that's amazing. She has the book. You also, let me just divert for a second, Keisha. You started basically a university teaching this. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it's so unbelievable because I never thought that would happen. But readers came forward during the first half of COVID, and they were like, we want to be certified. We want to be certified holistic wealth consultants. And I thought, wow, That's unbelievable. And these are such amazing women who were highly educated. Lots of them are financial advisors who read the book and they were like, women need this and we need to be teaching this in like free workshops and seminars and, you know, even for teens. And so they're doing that now. And I figured, you know, after I wrote the certification program, I should just, you know, place that in the framework of a university, as you said, this Institute on Holistic Wealth, which is set up and offer it through there, because it was such an amazing step for me. I didn't anticipate that readers would come by and think, listen, we need to have workshops to train and empower women through this certification program, but they did. And, you know, I got to writing it and it's up and it's released now, but it's unbelievable, Elisa, that the journey started with how it started and it ended up this way. I had no idea this would happen, but I'm so grateful. Now, the Certified Holistic Wealth Consultant program is available, and it's to anyone, regardless of your background. And, you know, you can go at your own pace. It's self-paced, 100% online. And it's amazing. I've gotten amazing feedback. And these Certified Holistic Wealth Consultants are doing amazing work in their communities all across North America. They are training women. They're having financial literacy workshops. They're training teens. And it's just unbelievable to see the work that they've been doing. I've been so inspired by their work and how they've taken this movement and just driven it forward.
So let's dig in there a little bit, because you did have some financial background before, but one of the many things that I love about your book is it looks at the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the financial. And I think in one of your videos that I listened to, you were talking about, and many of us know this, how 2020 and COVID so negatively impacted women, much more so than men. I mean, men, yes, they lost jobs, whatever, but not at the level that women did. And this is a perfect time, I believe, to help women wake up to financial security and all the things that can mean. We know women are resigning from career positions, starting their own jobs, trying to have a side hustle. Your book, you talk about longevity and long-term thinking. And you know, I talk to people about just being financially stable and secure and having a foundation. Why do you think this is more challenging for women?
You know, it's so funny how on the Holistic Wealth podcast, host, I've had amazing women come on, and some of them have shared their stories with me, Elisa, about why it's so challenging for women. And it goes back to childhood. And I've had several guests who've done amazingly well now. Like, for instance, I'll give an example. Lauren Ridinger, people can listen to her episode. She's the CEO of Shop.com. And Wendy Friesen, who's a hypnotherapist, a world global leader in hypnotherapy, and both of them said they had these negative messages about money growing up, and several other women that I've posted on the podcast have said that. And some of the messaging, you know, comes from that traditional male-female role where, you know, they would hear in their families, like men saying, oh, women aren't good with money, or men are better at numbers, or women shouldn't run a business, you should just be an air hostess, or, you know, things like that, that very traditional, very outdated mode of thinking. And that has affected lots of women in terms of, well, you know, maybe I'm not that good with money. Maybe I should leave it to my husband who takes care of, you know, the spreadsheets and the finances. And I've even heard this from women who are in the financial field. So it's not just women who are, you know, not in the field. I've heard it from women in the field as well. So it's unbelievable. It's a barrier we definitely have to break for women and help them break that barrier, that mental barrier. But yeah, it starts in childhood, starts there. And traditionally, you know, as women, we've had to take care of so many things domestically, like at home. We give birth, we have jobs. I talk about the triple helix for women work of parenting and work and juggling everything. And sometimes we just want to delegate that. You know, that's another complicated thing that we just don't want to deal with.
Right.
But knowing what I went through in my personal story, you know, and I'm a trained economist too, like I know, you know, we talk about this, we hear terms like the she session and the she recovery, and you're absolutely right. It affected women in, you know, in so many ways, and so it's part of my mission, because of my experience, because of my professional training, which really lends itself to this as well, that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt this is something that we have to help women with, because women on average outlive their husbands by on average 15 years, I think.
Yes.
So we all will be single at one point. We, you know, some of us will be single for longer than others, and we need to know how to manage our finances.
The reason, if you don't mind me sharing a little bit of my story with you, the reason it truly does resonate with me is, you know, I grew up in a time where I was told that, you know, I'd marry someone who would take care of me, which, you know, didn't happen. I didn't marry anyone who made more money than me. And that, you know, if I had a career, I would stay with it forever, which also didn't happen. And I hit a part of my life where I was really down to zero, hand to mouth, just getting through. I was finishing a PhD, and I was very, very focused on the fact that I didn't have to be like that I could take control of my money, even if I just had extra little pennies a day. And I made decisions that were very, very, from that point on, financially focused. And not with any guidance, but just sort of knowing the things and doing some reading. And over the years, I heard things like, well, you don't really have a balanced life. You're so focused on finances. Or, I can't believe you balance your checkbook every month. Or, I mean, on and on. And because of the decisions I made, I was able to go from zero, literally from zero, to financial security. And the negative messages about that along the way were amazing to me. I mean, honestly, when somebody said to me, I don't know why you balance your checkbook every month. I don't know why it's any of your business. And I like to visit my money. I like to know where it is and where it's going. Do you, and you've got an economics background, do you find that women continually get those negative messages as we all try to build a foundation?
Absolutely. I think it's continual, and with our life transition, we do get those negative messages too. And it's unbelievable that you asked me, Elisa, because chapter 2 in the book,
yes,
second chapter, is about the naysayers. And yes. I got those negative messages after my husband died. I'm a trained economist. I earned a good salary. I was doing well on my own, but yet still people were like, oh, you know, you probably shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you don't have a husband, you don't have this, and these are the exact messages that women get. When there's a transition or your situation changes, you know, people have good intentions. Sometimes they want you to, you know, be safe and secure. Yes. But sometimes, you know, as women, we have to take those measured risks, which is another chapter in the book that I talk about, to encourage women to step out of their comfort zone. And I did that. Luckily, I didn't listen to those messages. And that's what, you know, I wanted to impart in those 2 chapters, was not to necessarily get bogged down into those messages, but to really chart a path of your own and really own your, you know, I talk about the personal financial identity, which is an essential part of money management. And on the Institute on Holistic Wealth website, I have this free quiz, the Personal Financial Identity Quiz, to help everyone. You know, it takes 2 minutes, it's quick and it's easy, and anyone can go on there and get your personal financial identity. And it's amazing the insights that people have shared on the Holistic Wealth podcast about how they harness the strength of their personal financial identity.
So let's remind people how to find you, right? They go to KeishaBlair.com, right?
Yeah.
And then everything is there?
Everything is there. You can get the link, because on KeishaBlair.com is, you know, my main website. It has all the links. But on the Institute website, so that's the Institute on Holistic Wealth, there's also a tab there for the quiz. It's on the front page, and you can get that there, and it's free. It's simple. It takes 2 minutes, and you can do that there. If you go to KeishaBlair.com, you can absolutely get that there too, and we have a course on the Institute website for people who want to delve further into their own, personal financial identity, so that they know how to harness the strength. And all of this was as a result of readers coming back to me during COVID. It's unbelievable. Like, I had readers text me and they were like, well, I want to know mine. So how do I know? Because in the book, there was no quiz yet. I developed the quiz during COVID, but now we have that quiz to communicate. So we have words to be able to express ourselves and to be able to say, well, this is who I am. I'm a minimalist. And so I'm not going to do X, Y, or Z, or I'm a risk taker. And that's how I view my decisions in life. And it's amazing, even in relationships with couples.
Absolutely.
It's a very empowering thing to do.
I think it's lovely because at times and people who I think care about me will say, you just don't enjoy your money enough. Like, I think I do. I mean, I treat myself to stuff. Well, you should, and then they give me this big list of things I should do, none of which actually attract me. Right? I don't feel like going to Bali by myself, and I actually do a lot of things I love to do, and one of them is that I'm generous. And I don't remember where you talk about that in the book, but you do, about either charity or generosity, that is part of financial longevity and long-term thinking. Is that correct?
That is correct, for sure.
And so that is another way of expressing gratitude, perhaps. I have, and here's something I care about. My listeners know that I support the MS Society. My brother died from MS years ago, and so I support that. And that I believe it's a way of saying thank you. Does that make sense? That generosity is a way of saying thank you?
It is a way of saying thank you, and it's unbelievable that you brought that up, because even during COVID, and I'm embarking on this massive project, in terms of rolling out some alternative learning centers in Jamaica as a way of saying thank you.
Wow.
We're partnering with charity organizations to do this. And, it's where a lot of my healing took place after my husband died. I have family roots there. And it means so much to be able to give back to a place that gave me so much when I felt like there was no more meaning left in life. And so you're absolutely right. It helps us to give back in a way that's so meaningful and to empower ourselves and empower others. So it's unbelievable how you phrase that. I really like that.
And then I want to play off of that, because there's something you just said that, well, there's a few things. But you definitely, through all of this, focused on hope. In the book, it's very clear. This is about hope. And so you took a horrific situation, right? A terrifying situation, and turned to gratitude and hope. And is hope the other part that pulls you through, that you want to impart to others?
Absolutely. And in the beginning of the book, I talk about this motivation from within. And a lot of that hope, I felt like I had to dig deep at that time. Like, there was this well, and I kept envisioning a well. And, when that bucket is released way down into the well, you can't see the bottom of the well. You can't see the floor. But you're releasing that bucket. And I just kept that in my mind of digging deep in that well, releasing that bucket, and coming up with more water, with more resources to empower myself and to give myself hope. And it's so funny you asked me that, Elisa, because I think about the spiritual self-renewal chapter in the book. Because I think in the 4 laws of spiritual self-renewal, like, I wrote that article before I wrote the viral article. It's up on Thrive Global. And one of the laws that I outlined is keeping hope alive. And that was what kept me going as one of the 4 laws of spiritual renewal. And you know, in the book, in that chapter where I mentioned that we need to be renewing ourselves every day to keep that hope alive, that's what I had to be doing consciously and mindfully. And it's very hard to do when you're in a situation where you're grieving or there's a tragedy, or even during a time like this where there's a pandemic. But it came to me even this morning when I got up again, that this constant daily renewal of our soul, of our mind, is necessary to get us through like difficult times and setbacks like this. And all throughout my journey, I kept thinking about that well and that bucket going deep. And I couldn't see this future, and I couldn't see what was beyond the tragedy, but I kept bringing up that bucket and bringing up that bucket. And I kid you not, like, I kept that in my mind, and it kept me going.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. There are so many links, interesting links between us. The name of my novel is The Way of the Well, and I just think that that's just sort of another interesting little piece. You talked about, and I definitely experienced this, that grief robs the host of nutrients. And I think, I mean, I definitely experienced that. You talked about going into a supermarket and it felt like a cemetery because you were used to cooking for others. And I remember after the death, my mother and husband died just like almost simultaneously. And I went to the grocery store and thought, I have no idea what any of this stuff is or how I'm supposed to use it or eat it. Maybe I could just buy coffee and maybe that'll do it. So hope is the cure, right? When grief is the disease, hope is the cure. Does that make sense? Is that what the other thing you're trying to say?
That makes perfect sense. And even when we can't see what tomorrow might bring, and even when we can't see what this future looks like, we have no idea because it's so uncertain, just like, you know, the time we're living in, is keeping that hope alive and keep digging deep to keep it there and keep replenishing. You know, when you talk about the grief robbing its host of nutrients, I honestly, and being in the supermarket, I couldn't hold an orange. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't place it in a bag. It was unbelievable, you know, and I feel like so many people have suffered through COVID-19 and they're wondering what tomorrow will bring. And so that message of hope is so needed right now. And just keep digging deep. If you're in that position, just keep digging. Just keep going one step at a time. One day at a time. There's hope, and it will get brighter tomorrow.
What I love, and you're alluding to it here, you talk about flipping the script, which is really what we've been talking about. But you have a section in the book that specifically discusses it, and that we have to stop listening to the naysayers and the thinking that somebody else knows what we should do, and that our script, we're still here. Our script is not over, right? It's a new chapter. And that so much of what we're experiencing then is how we think about it. But I know you mean more than just that. I wanted more in that little chapter, I have to tell you.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and I know you actually have a second edition or a new book. Which one coming out? Is it a completely new book?
So this is a follow-up book. It's a second edition, and it's out in March next year. So it's March 8th on International Women's Day. It's up for pre-order now, so people can pre-ordering. It's on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and it will be on other sites shortly. They're loading it up, and it's available there. And yes, that chapter will be expanded upon in the second edition, and it's one of my favorites too. It's one of my favorites, Elisa, because I keep thinking about flipping that script. And when that script starts to unfold, you know how to flip the script. You can see it unraveling, because it starts with the same story. As I said in the book, it starts with the same story of that unraveling of your life, that moment when things fell apart. and that defining moment, and it goes down the same journey of you rendering a verdict. You know, you either did something wrong or you did something right. And if you render that verdict that you didn't quite handle it in the way you wanted to, then it follows another path and it leads you down this rabbit hole, as I said in the book. And the key is to knowing to flip the script and knowing when to stop it. And, you know, I've been there, and so I know, and every, you know, that picture that I painted in the book, in the first few months of grief, it was the most vivid and it was the most difficult in terms of stopping it. Because when somebody dies, as you know, you think about all the things you should have done and what you should have said and the things you didn't get to say, and it can really be painful and difficult. And so knowing how to flip that script into that hope and positivity can make the difference between moving on and really taking control of our lives.
Right. Yeah, this is, you know, you and I could probably talk for hours, because I know you'll probably in this new book expand even more on finding your heart's desire. I talk about finding your soul's craving, but that search that we're on, that I think is simply a continual journey. It isn't, like you said early in our conversation, it isn't a dart you throw at a dartboard and like, okay, that's it, and I'll get there and everything will be glorious, right? It is this journey that we're on. So what I'd love to know is what still inspires you?
Yeah, it's amazing how, so the certified holistic wealth consultant, I calls with some of them like bi-weekly, monthly, and you know, we have these calls and they outline to me the work they're doing to help women and teens and what they want to see next in this holistic wealth movement, and they keep inspiring me over and over again, because these are readers of the book who found me, like found the book, reached out to me online, whether it's through LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever social media platform, and then we become this family. And so that inspires me in terms of this holistic wealth journey. And of course, there's my family and my kids, which are my priority above everything else, and that also helps. But in terms of the book and the Institute on Holistic Wealth and this journey that I'm on, I think those women who come forward in this very meaningful way, you know, to impact humanity and do the things they're doing, and they're doing these things free of cost. They're doing these workshops free of cost. They're doing the training for teens and women free of cost. And I'm just inspired and motivated because they're going out there, they're making a difference, and they're telling me what they're doing. Some of them are doing, you know, work with entrepreneurs now, and they're using the book, they're using Holistic Wealth to do it. And I'm just amazed at how they've, you know, taken this movement in a different direction. And it's so in line with what you said, right? With the dart and throwing it at the board, and you feel, because sometimes you write a book and you're like, yeah, this is it. I got the book out and this is it. And then these things happen and you're like, wow, this is a journey. And this is what I'm so grateful for, the journey. And I keep saying, even when I'm tired and exhausted, I'm so thankful for this message. I'm so thankful for this journey, and I say my prayer, and it inspires me again. But this is why, you know, like as you said, wisdom shared here today, and women and everyone knowing that your life, the script isn't done. It's far from being done, and you have no idea the greatness and the power that can come out when you really tap in, you know, to your passions and your purpose.
And I think what I love, one of the things, and we're really coming to the end of our conversation, we have like 4 minutes, which means you have to come back on because we have so much more to talk about. Hopefully when the release of your next book, I'd love to have you on then. One of the things that I find in your book is you're not telling people, find the one thing, right? Which we hear so much of. Find your passion, do your passion, that'll be it. your book is about life changes. It is about the reality of life is painful and glorious. It is intimidating and mysterious and seductive, and all of those things mixed together. Your book is one big and, right? This and that, and this and that. And I find that so inspiring. We have 3 minutes. I'm going to give you like 1 minute to talk. What message would you have for people right now, women especially, struggling with finding that sense of meaning for themselves?
Yeah, no, and that's such a great question, because so many people are struggling with that. And, you know, one of the small steps that I think, you know, people always ask me, what are the micro steps I can take now? And one of them is to just think about a mission. Think about what drives you, your passion, and outline it in a mission for yourself. So it transcends a job title or anything like that. It's a mission that you will leave with a legacy, and if you were to die tomorrow, God forbid, this is what you would want to be as your mission. And that can help guide you in so many ways. And just think about your values and try to incorporate them into this mission. And the Holistic Wealth Personal Workbook that accompanies this book, you'll find case studies there of women who've outlined their personal mission and examples for you to use to do yours. And it's a great way of starting to think about reprioritizing, refocusing, and really harnessing those passions and those strengths that you have into something new and something greater for your life.
That is a perfect way to end our conversation. So if you are listening, you've just had the joy of listening to the amazing Keisha Blair talk about her book and her work and her life and share these incredible lessons. This is the Dr. Elisa Show, and I want to say that each of us is on a soul journey, and that this is part of my show, the Dr. Elisa Show Soul Journey. I think that's part of what we do together on this show. I want to leave you just with a few thoughts, and that is that there are so many ways to stay inspired. There are so many ways. Each of us has a flame inside of us, and sometimes we need to give it a little fuel to get it to flicker more strongly. But we're never wrong. We're never we're never out of the possibility and potential to be the best self, to be the person we crave. That never ends. As long as we breathe, that does not end. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and come back in 2 weeks. I have an amazing guest and a dear friend. Ellen Hutt will be on talking about her life journey and her book, and so that's another thing. And until then, please, let that flame inside you burn. Let it help you stay well, stay curious, and please, just beyond everything else, stay inspired.